Principles of good sadhu sangha. So number 2 is discuss Srila Prabhupada's purports with other devotees. Is principle number 2. So discussing Srila Prabhupada's purports is very much what we're doing in this group. So having a sangha group with a group of devotees or even a group of newcomers to Krishna consciousness means really to discuss not only Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and other literatures translated by Srila Prabhupada, but in particular focusing on how the pure devotees, how they interpret the text as it is, how they understand the text, and pass that information on to us is very important. So they don't add anything of their own ideas, and they don't subtract from the original meaning of the text. Rather, they are like enriching the meaning, in that way. So this is why it's important to discuss the purport of Srila Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada draws from so many other places in his purports, so to give more light to the text which is being read, and so this is why it's important to read the purports which Srila Prabhupada gives in discussions with devotees. So has everybody found where we're starting from then? From chapter 14, yeah? We'll start by singing the invocation prayer in the introduction. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. So just to recap a little bit of last week, can anyone comment on some things which we covered at the very beginning of this chapter, finishing off from the previous chapter, and then recall some of the points we covered? We're just discussing about how Srila Prabhupada, Brahmaji was, how the curtain of Yogamaya was drawn. Does anyone remember that discussion from Brahmaji? How his illusion was removed. He had several illusions in this pastime, or he had 3 different stages of illusion which we discussed. Does anyone remember those discussions which we had? What we discussed this is just where we started last week. We were saying about how Lord Brahma, he was first of all illusioned when he saw Krishna playing with the boys, because he was expecting, Krishna to be very different. He didn't expect him to just be acting like an ordinary little child when he first saw Krishna. Then that was the first illusion. Then beyond that, there was another illusion when he's decided to trick Krishna, play a game with him, test him, and Lord Brahma, he took away the boys and the calves which Krishna was playing with and taking care of, and then he went away and came back, and he found all the boys and calves were still there, and that was another illusion he couldn't understand. He was again bewildered as to what had happened, because nobody was more powerful than him. No one's more powerful than Brahma in the universe. That was the second illusion. Then the third illusion was all these boys and calves, they turned into Vishnu Murtis, they turned into Vishnu forms. So again, he was even more bewildered. And so this was the discussion we started with last week. And then Krishna removed all of the illusion and showed him Vrindavan. And at that point, Brahma paid his obeisances. And then he began speaking these prayers. Does anyone else have anything they could recall from last week? Otherwise, we can begin with this week's chapter and verse, and chapter and paragraph even. This is actually I think it's one of the longest chapters in the Krishna book. So these prayers are quite significant. They take up a significant portion of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's lots of information about how to pray and the type of prayer to offer to the Lord contained within these paragraphs. So Prabhuji, would you like to, Jay Prakash Prabhu,
Yeah.
would you like to start us off, please?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Am I on mute? Okay. My dear Lord, there are many instances in the history of human society where a person, after failing to achieve the transcendental platform, engaged himself in devotional service with his body, mind, and words, and thus attained the highest perfection state of entering to your abode. The processes of understanding you by speculation or mystic meditation are all useless without devotional service. One should therefore engage himself in your devotional service even in his worldly activities. One should always keep himself near you by the process of hearing and chanting your transcendental glories. Simply by being attached to hearing and chanting your glories, one can attain the highest perfection stage of entering into your kingdom. If a person therefore always keeps in touch with you by hearing and chanting your glories and offers the results of his work for your satisfaction only, he very easily and happily attains entrance into your supreme abode. You are realizable by persons who have cleansed their hearts of all contamination. The cleansing of the heart is made possible by chanting and hearing the glories of your Lordship.
So this is quite an instructive paragraph, isn't it? It covers many practical aspects of our Krishna consciousness.
Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm so sorry. Was it the beginning of chapter 14?
So this is a few paragraphs in. We just read the paragraph starting, "My dear Lord, there are many instances."
Okay, sorry.
Yeah?
I apologize.
No problem.
Found it, yeah.
That's all right.
Okay.
So I found that the first point I kind of picked up on was where Prabhupada writes, "The process of understanding you by speculation or mystic meditation are all useless without devotional service." And the reason I found that interesting was because what we're seeing in the activity of Brahma is he was speculating on who Krishna was, right? He actually forgot Krishna's identity as a Supreme Lord. Even though he's vastly intelligent, he used his intelligence and his mystic power to try and conquer Krishna, he was trying to understand Krishna. He was trying to test Krishna with his own power, with his own intelligence. But he'd come to realize, and this is the prayer that he's making, actually that wasn't the right approach for me to understand you. He's saying that the right approach is to understand. He says, by speculation or mystic meditation are useless without devotional service. So just trying to understand Krishna by our own powers is not very useful unless it's connected with trying to serve him. We try and use our powers, our abilities, let's say, our intelligence in serving Krishna. That's going to be very fruitful. And I found the next sentence very interesting as well, where it's written that one should therefore engage himself in your devotional service, even in his worldly activities. That was interesting because much of the day we're not doing bhakti yoga, we're not hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna 24/7, right? We've got so many other responsibilities and activities that keep us busy and occupied through the day. But here it's interesting because Brahma says that even that we should do in a spirit of devotion. What do you think that means, that doing your business or your household chores in devotional service? What would that mean to you? It's an open question for everybody.
Do it for Krishna, maybe. You know, if you go to work.
How would you do
Unfortunately,
that?
it doesn't apply. But when I go to work, you want to collect a bit of Lakshmi, and hopefully, if one can afford to, they can give a bit in donation. So you are still doing something towards Krishna, maybe.
Right.
Because devotional service, it should be all with love. And Krishna doesn't need your money, but that's still one kind of devotional service for the temple to go ahead and for them to preach to other members of the public, maybe.
Yeah, very wonderful. Yeah, so giving a portion of your income to Krishna. So acknowledging that, you know, everything that you're able to do, your abilities, your work, the results of your work, that all comes from Krishna. Krishna gives abilities and he can take them away. Krishna gives the result of the work, he gives us the income, or he can take it away. And so we're giving something back to Krishna because he's giving us everything. Yeah, that's one way. Can anyone think of another way of your day-to-day activities and how you can link them with Krishna? How you can make them devotional?
You can give your services something that you tend to do on your day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Use that to provide services to either the temple or moving the movement forward.
Yeah.
So, for example, say, I mean, like in my case, I'm an accountant, so I tend to keep records and income and expenditure for the local BOIC center. So that's my way of giving something that I'm good at.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so like using your skills, huh?
Yeah.
We have to use our skills for our own self, for our own work, for our own progress. So using the same skills which you have, but applying them in the direct service of Krishna. So yeah, that's another way. Yeah.
The other way would be, you know, like helping with Food for Life program. So if you can offer services that might not be your skill, but obviously it's something you can definitely do. And if you participate in that, that's providing something in the service of Krishna.
Sure. Yeah, that's also right. Yeah. So take up, like, any spare time you have, take up a service, for example, Food for Life or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts? Sipriti here, Vimal's here, Madhvi Mataji's here as well.
So if I can say,
oh yeah,
can you hear me? Hi, Vimal here. Hi. So I was thinking about like, for example, any activity we do. So for example, when I do an activity, whether it's for work or myself, I kind of dovetail it for how can this contribute to my in my spiritual life. So I kind of like convert the meaning for doing something to, oh, it's going to help me with this thing in my spiritual life, in terms of how can I be more of service in the servitor mood.
Okay, that's very nice. So you pick options in your life which you can then find will be useful in your service. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's really wonderful. Yeah. So when it comes to making decisions in life, you see how you can tune that in to serving Krishna. Yeah. I was thinking of one as well, like even just from a moment to moment basis, you know, like on one level we can work and then give the results of our work or our earnings, some portion of our earnings to Krishna, and then outside of work we can use the same skills in the devotional service. Like I, for example, had a friend recently who he's also kind of got a finance background, and he did a seminar for devotees on how to manage your finances, which I thought was interesting, you know. So that's another thing he did. And then I was thinking more like on a moment to moment, or, you know, while you're doing your work, how do you make that devotional service? Like I'm an analyst, so maybe this example doesn't apply to everyone, but one of my seniors told me that the work I'm actually doing, you know, I felt it was completely irrelevant to Krishna consciousness, but he kind of gave me a way of thinking about it, in that I could see Krishna through the work I do. So try and follow this with me, if you will, because I'm an analyst, so it may not be your specific background or skills. But in my case, I work with data. So I work with lots and lots and lots of data, lots of numbers, stored on big computers. And that data is basically meaningless to people. It's all got everything in it. All the information is there. But my job is to take all of that out and transform it into something and then give it to someone, and that person can just make an action, a decision with it. That's basically my job. So I'm working with data all day. So he said, so he was saying to me, so the way you can think of Krishna through this job is that you're taking what is impersonal, because data on its own, it doesn't have any value, and you're adding value to it. You're giving some value to that same data. You're not adding or removing anything, but you're just presenting in a way that's got a lot of value. So he says, so you're taking something which is impersonal and making it personal, because when it becomes personal, you can relate to it, you can add. So it's like that. You have something which is like Brahman, you know, impersonal, and you're making it like Bhagavan, Krishna, because Krishna is all opulent. So, you know, he was giving me like, maybe it doesn't apply to everyone. Maybe you can't, I don't know if it's, if it kind of makes much sense. But in my world, that makes a lot of sense, you see. So the point was anyway, that you can see in your work how you're transferring something from, you know, the state that you start with to the state that you end with, and where Krishna is in the picture. And that can be quite fulfilling as well in some ways. You know, like someone who's cooking as well. You start off with a bunch of ingredients, you transform them, isn't it? And then you end up with a dish which you can offer to Krishna. Yeah, it's got more taste and more added value, you can say, even though it's the same ingredients you started with. Yeah. So in many ways like that, you can see in your life on a more kind of connected level to your work, you can say, how it's related to Krishna. What do you think of that from that perspective? Can you think of ways in which you can apply your work in Krishna consciousness through that lens? Is that viewpoint? Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking a line of, everything, as long as we keep round center to Krishna, all our activities, doesn't matter which activity it is, it does help us. That is devotional service. As you said, somebody's cooking, somebody's cleaning. We're doing for ourselves, like in this COVID thing, what Chandamala Maharaj mentioned, COVID has given to devotees as a karuna, come as a karuna, to understand Krishna, which before we didn't have much time. We understood, we were running around to temples and this and lectures and this. But now you've got time in your own home to see how to be centered for Krishna, keeping Krishna in the center. Whatever you're doing, you cook at home, you're cooking for yourself. If you go out to service at the temple, then you're cooking at temple, you think, okay, is this for Krishna? So your consciousness, you put more consciousness into that. But if you put the same consciousness at home, though we cook what we like, but it is for Krishna, And you think when you're buying, you as well, you think that, yeah, Krishna would like this, or I haven't offered this to Krishna for a while, like you tell that my child hasn't had this for a long time, or I love to have this, you know. So yeah, that is a devotional service, and that's how I think Krishna loves that. He does play up as well, but he loves that. So that's mine. It's just always keep Krishna in the center. Doesn't matter you're going work. And Grihastha has to go to work, have to maintain this thing. So it's not that we can just pack up everything and just sit and chant or do something. We can't do that.
No.
We always have to learn to balance around that. Like you were saying, financial seminar were there. Yeah, why we try to balance and try to balance our finance? Because if we don't, tomorrow you won't be able to pay your mortgage. Then you'll be on the road. So you're worried always how I'm going to pay my mortgage this month or next month. So I must save this. Also, you break it down. So same thing, you break it down, all your services. That, okay, I'll do this for Krishna at this time. But Krishna is our priority and the topmost goal. So that is what we have to remember, what is our goal. Oh, so that what I would say about it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhvi Mataji. Yeah, that's really wonderfully said. That made me realize many things actually as you were speaking. You know, making Krishna your goal, like, you know, every day, at the end of every day, you can actually practically, you know, before you sleep, you can even, you know, make a prayer that Krishna, everything I've done today, I want it to be for you in that way. Or, you know, Krishna, whatever I've done right, you please accept. Whatever I've done wrong, you please forgive. Yeah. Every day we can remember that Krishna, you are my ultimate goal.
Yeah, you
And then,
always
like
do
you said,
that.
when you started, like the coronavirus, it's really making everyone kind of slow down and think, you know, what are my real values, and what is my sense of purpose, isn't it? It's making a lot of people think. Yeah. So this is another, for devotees, this is a great opportunity to think, like, what am I doing with my time, and how am I connecting my every activity to Krishna? Yeah. And so Krishna, so Prabhupada says in this purport, then in this text that, so then by doing this, we very easily and happily attain entrance into Krishna's supreme abode. So it's very easy because we just do the same things we're doing, and we're very happy because we connect them to Krishna. The happiness will come from Krishna. So we can do the same thing we're doing, and we'll be more happier doing the same thing because it's being connected to Krishna. Anyone else would like to comment before we continue? Preeti?
Hare Krishna.
Sure.
So there was a time when I used to work with youth 16 plus, and I was given the task of doing some meditation workshops, different ways of meditating, and one of the parts in the workshop I included was chanting. And so it was either pick a mantra or you can create your own. That was something that the manager thought we could play with. But even in that way, I added the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in there, and that was one way. The other way, it's like if you set maths questions, then these days there's lots of different diverse names that come up in maths questions, and it's just like the subtle ways to add Krishna or Radha. Just yeah, so certainly put it in the curriculum somewhere. Not quite curriculum, but questions and stuff. So yeah, that's just to add Krishna where I can. And I've heard many times not many times, it's with schools in detentions, they have like yoga and stuff. So again, if anything like that gets started up, then it's another way of getting children to chant. Yeah. So.
Yeah, be creative, huh? That's really nice. Reminds me of something I had to do at work actually once, and maybe some of you others devotees participating can think of examples. In my work, we have this we have a non-work meeting. since everyone's been in lockdown, and a lot of people are isolated, or they don't get a chance to see their family and friends who are far away or whatever, they have created this meeting in my work, which is like an hour a week where a different person in the team will present something, and it has to be like a quiz or something. So I made a little presentation on the 3 modes of nature, because I thought, well, nobody's ever heard of this before in my work. So I said, mode of goodness, here's all the types of things someone in the mode of goodness would do. Here's mode of passion, what someone would do, and mode of ignorance. And then I did a quiz, and I said, okay, so at work, I gave some questions like, you look at your pay packet and you realize you've been overpaid. What do you do? And then they had to write an answer like, what would someone in the mode of goodness do? What would someone in the mode of passion do? What would someone in the mode of ignorance do? And then they were coming back with the answer. So they were really thinking about it, And so they gave me really good feedback actually in the end. And they said, oh, this was really enlightening and eye-opening. And so, yeah, think of creative ways of introducing Krishna in the workplace. Thank you for adding that, Priti. So we can continue then.
The Lord is all pervading, as it is stated by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything is sustained by me, but at the same time, I'm not in everything. Since the Lord is all pervading, there is nothing existing without his knowledge. The all pervasive nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be within the limited knowledge of a living entity. Therefore, a person who has attained steadiness of the mind by fixing the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord is able to understand the Supreme Lord to some extent. It is the business of the mind to wander over varied subject matter for sense gratification. Therefore, only a person who always engages the senses in the service of the Lord can control the mind and be fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. This concentration of the mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord is called samadhi. Until one reaches the stage of samadhi or trance, he cannot understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There may be some philosophers or scientists who can study the cosmic nature from atom to atom. They may be so advanced that they count the atomic composition of the cosmic atmosphere, or all the planets and stars in the sky, or even the shining molecular particles of the sun, or of the stars and other luminaries in the sky, but it is not possible to count the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. I seem to remember discussing this last week, actually. Does anyone else remember? We discussed this. Was it just me? Am I imagining? I don't know. We discussed a little bit about what samadhi is, I think, last week. That it's not the idea of someone kind of just being in this emptiness or this stillness, but the Krishna consciousness definition of samadhi, as we just discussed from the previous paragraph, is thinking, how can I connect everything to Krishna? So that's called Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate, according to Rupa Goswami. Is there anything else in this paragraph which you could think of discussing? If not, we can continue on.
As described in the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, the Supreme Person is the origin of all qualities. He is generally called Nirguna. Nirguna means whose qualities are beyond estimation. Guna means quality and Nir means beyond estimation. But impersonalists interpret this word Nirguna as having no quality, because they are unable to estimate the qualities of the Lord in the transcendental realization. They conclude that the Supreme Lord has no qualities, but this is actually not the position. The real position is that he is the original source of all qualities. All qualities are emanating constantly from him. How therefore can a limited person count the qualities of the Lord? One may estimate the qualities of the Lord at one moment, but the next moment the qualities have increased. So it is not possible to make an estimation of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He is therefore called Nirguna.
So Brahma refers in this prayer to this word Nirgun. He says Krishna is Nirgun or Vishnu is Nirgun. And it's interpreted in different ways. There's one type of interpretation which is impersonal, and there's one type of interpretation on this word which is transcendental, which is personal. Okay, so what would be the impersonal way that Nirguna is translated? To say that the Supreme is impersonal, to say that he's Nirguna, how would they say that? As is described in this paragraph.
Is it that they're taking possibly the word near as in no, and then guna meaning quality? So it says here having no quality. It's like something impersonal doesn't really have a quality. It's just impersonal. Yeah, and obviously the personal would have a quality, something about them which they can connect to somebody with, like on a personal level.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, well spotted. So yeah, Prabhupada writes that impersonalists interpret this word as having no quality. So nir means without and guna means quality. So sometimes when we hear or if we hear from impersonalist, then they often stress this point that the Supreme is without quality, the divinity is like unrecognizable and unreachable, or is not this, is not this, is not is not possible. It's very kind of well, yeah, like the word is impersonal. There's no way of understanding because the Supreme is so beyond. So that is one way which is interpreted, or the misinterpretation of this term Nirguna. But actually, the reason that Brahma is praying, he's praying to a person, he's praying to Krishna. He's bowing down on his hands and knees and putting his foreheads to the ground, and he's saying, "You're Nirguna, Krishna." So there's a personal meaning for this word as well. What is that? Can anyone say? There's a proper interpretation of this word. So what does that mean from a personalistic perspective?
That he's the original source of all qualities.
That's right, yeah. So he's the original source of all qualities. Yeah. Anyone else could pick up our meaning of Nirguna from here?
Quality beyond estimation, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhupada puts that in quotation marks. He says, whose qualities are beyond estimation. Yeah, well spotted. Yeah. So actually it means that he has so many qualities. It's the complete opposite meaning. He has so many qualities that we can't even like grasp them fully. Because once you've understood something about Krishna, you can grasp some of his qualities. Then what does Prabhupada say? What happens? You understand a little bit about Krishna, but then
it increases moment to moment.
Yeah. Then because his quality is always increasing, then what you understand about Krishna also can grow. So if you just think of one quality of Krishna, like if we say that Krishna is very kind, and how much we can understand Krishna is kind, we can read about how kind Krishna is, and we think about in our lives how kind Krishna is. But then as we start doing that, we'll find wherever we look for it, we'll keep finding more and more how kind Krishna is. You just take one quality, and Krishna's got unlimited qualities which are growing unlimitedly. So we like, yes, Priti?
So just generally, does Krishna's qualities keep increasing, not from our imagination, but just generally?
Yes.
But then how is he then complete? You know, like if he's constantly increasing, then how is he complete? You know, he's in a way he's still gaining, you know, he's still learning, or he's still gaining those qualities. So then that would make that stuff that is not complete. Or
yeah,
would somebody be complete if they're always learning, gaining things? Like they're never, it's never as if like they go through an experience and somehow they haven't personally progressed, like personal progression, like whether it's a spiritual progression or anything, just make themselves a better person.
Yeah, so one this is actually one of the prayers which is coming up, where Krishna, where Brahma says that Krishna has achintya shakti, he's inconceivable. So there was a couple of ways I could think of examples which might touch on this a little bit. Just the very fact that Krishna is inconceivable means we can't really understand him. Once Srila Prabhupada, he went to the MIT, which is a very famous institution for learning. Has anyone heard of it? The Massachusetts Institute for Technology, in Massachusetts. And so he had a discussion with some of the professors there. And the professors asked him, so can Krishna create something which is so heavy that even he cannot lift it? That was the question of these, professors. So it was like an intellectual, how can we say, like they were kind of intellectualizing how Krishna is. Because on one hand, if Prabhupada says, no, he can't create something which is so heavy that he can't lift, then there's something that Krishna can't do. On the other hand, if they say that Krishna can lift everything, then they will say, then there's something that he can't do. He can't create something which is better than him. So how did Prabhupada answer that question? Because they wanted to put Krishna in a box. They wanted to say he's either like this or he's like this. But Prabhupada wanted to show that actually Krishna's qualities are increasing. So what did Prabhupada do? Or what did Prabhupada say? He cited the example of Krishna picking up the Govardhan hill. Because he comes in the form of a small boy. So naturally, in that form, he cannot pick up the Govardhan hill. But then he also picks up the Govardhan hill as a small boy in that form. He doesn't take on another form. So Prabhupada says, yes, he will create something which he cannot lift, and then he will lift it. So you cannot put Krishna in a box. You cannot say he's like this, but then he can't be like that. See? So in that way, he's ever increasing. So I don't know if that answers your question as such. So how he's growing in qualities, right?
Yeah, I do not have to think about that one.
How he's the absolute, but at the same time, he's always increasing.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense. Like if somebody is complete, like they're always learning and stuff, and just got like unlimited qualities where it just keeps on increasing. But then again, you could think of that like if like you come across a human being where sure they're limited, but then even where they are, they keep learning, like their qualities keep increasing, you'd still think of them, are they not complete in a way?
Yeah, so
on a personal
it's very
level.
difficult for us to appreciate Krishna
Yeah.
when we try to look at something within our own experience, because Krishna, as explained in this particular paragraph, is beyond our experience. So generally, when we meet someone new, and we think, wow, this person is really wonderful, you know, this person has all these great skills, all these great talents, and then we get to know them, and then we've always, you know, like happens many times when we estimate people from a material perspective, we always end up finding some flaw or some fault or some defect or some bad habit or something, right? No matter how wonderful the person is. And then when you become close to that person, then that's the thing that just stands out and annoys you. You know, when you're in that, no matter how many good qualities they have, there's this one thing that will just be there, which will like always annoy you, you know? So that happens when we have relationships in this material world. We really appreciate someone up to an extent where we know them a bit too much. So I think in like text message language, they call it TMI, you know, too much information. You familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you get to know someone and you like them, that's, you know, let me just know them up to that much and that's fine. Because when you start getting really close to knowing someone much, much better, then you just find out all these things which you never knew. So Krishna is not like that, because Krishna, he's transcendental. So this is like a material viewpoint. But from a spiritual viewpoint, Krishna is unlimited in that the more we find out about him, the more good qualities we see.
Okay.
And they're increasing. So we don't have that perception of anyone in this world. It's not possible in the material world to have that perception, because the material world has doshas, or imperfections, right? So you get like a, I don't know, an astrological chart done. They tell you what all the imperfections of someone are, like that, right? So,
okay.
or you
Thank
get,
you.
I don't know, Ayurvedic, you know, you get consultation. They tell you what your doshas are, what defects you have in your health and so on. So this world is dosha nidhi. It's called an ocean of defects. But Krishna, he's called Karuna Sindhu. Like he's an ocean of compassion, Kripa Sindhu. So he has all of these. It's completely opposite, spiritual perspective.
Thank you.
Like there's a short story. Sorry, Kirtika Mata, did you want to go ahead, please? You're on mute, so I can't hear you.
I just wanted to ask a question, but it can wait after the story if you wanted to tell the story.
Okay, I'll just make it brief. So there's one nice painting which Srila Prabhupada asked for. There's a pastime here in the Krishna book which we'll come to, where Krishna comes across his own reflection in the mirror or in the palace, and he's completely captivated by it. It's such a wonderful painting because he's kind of like, it's actually a reflection on the floor. So he falls to the floor and he's like staring at this reflection of himself. He's staring at the reflection of himself in the floor. I always found that painting really amazing because, you know, like as we do, we look in the mirror in the morning, we do our hair and, you know, fix our, you know, our dress and whatever, attire. And, you know, of course, Krishna wears jewelry and garlands and so many other beautiful ornaments. And so then he's fit for the day. But then he goes out and he does his activities and he comes across a reflection of himself, and he's like in awe and he's amazed that, wow, have I become that much more beautiful? So you can see how in respect to Krishna's beauty increases. So in that way, even his own appreciation of himself increases. And this is what it means by Krishna's the supreme personality of Godhead. Not that being complete doesn't necessarily mean that he's complete in that he just stays the same, but he's complete in his personality, and he's unlimited in his personality. So he has a supreme personality of Godhead. So that's the principal feature of the supreme personality. Yes, Mataji, wanted to ask?
Yeah.
So it means that he's complete in form probably, but in qualities is limitless.
So even his forms are unlimited. Yeah.
And then when people say he is nirakar, so the impersonalist takes it as he has no akar, he has no form, but we know that he has a form.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing you've just mentioned, that he has several forms, in fact.
Yes, Krishna has Ananta Rupam. Krishna has Ananta Rupam, is called. He has unlimited forms.
Yeah. So Nirakar, Nirgun, Nirakar, but the impersonalists take it the literal meaning. While he's
Nirakar means he has no form. Yeah. So Nirgun means he has no qualities. Nirakar means he has no form. That's also true because he doesn't have a material form. And so Prabhupada, he uses this word incarnation. But if you look at the like the dictionary definition of incarnation, or let's say if you look at it from the Latin, if you want to go back and really analyze it, then the Latin, it comes from Latin, that incarnate, the word incarnation. It means to become into flesh. So Krishna doesn't have a flesh form. He doesn't come into a material body, so therefore he doesn't have a material form. So actually the better word is avatar, because he comes in his original form. So incarnation is just like many things in English, there isn't a word for the equivalent to Sanskrit words, so we have to kind of borrow words from a language which is foreign to explaining Krishna. So like that, Krishna doesn't have a material form, but we have to use words like incarnation. But so when it said that Krishna is Nirakar, it means he doesn't have a material form. That's also true. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a form. Yes? Okay, Preeti?
So when there are a few times when Krishna comes directly from Golok Vrindavan, like in this yuga, apparently he came from Golok Vrindavan. The other times when he doesn't, would that mean at that point he's got a material body if he comes via Vishnu?
So when you say the times which he doesn't, how do you mean?
No, I don't know. Actually, yeah, Vishnu's obviously eternal as well. So, but then, like Garbhodaya Vishnu, there that comes and goes, like at the end of like the cycle and everything. So, at those points when Krishna comes through Vishnu, then that wouldn't be completely spiritual body, though, would it? Because right now we've said he comes direct.
Every Vishnu tattva is completely spiritual, and therefore Krishna is said to be Ananta Rupam. He has unlimited forms. So Krishna is the fountainhead, or he's the origin of all of the different forms. But all of those different incarnations, be it Vishnu, be it Vamandev or Varahadev or Narasimhadev or Parashuram or Lord Ramachandra, all of those different incarnations, they're all the same Supreme Personality or Godhead, but they exhibit specific features. Just like yourself, if you think of I have a profile at work, I have a certain profile. With my family, I have a certain profile. On Facebook, I have a certain profile. On Instagram, I have a certain profile. You give a different aspect of yourself depending on who you're with, right? And so therefore Krishna, he exhibits different aspects of his personality depending on how those specific devotees want to reciprocate with him. So you see that he's also known as Bhavagrahi Janardana, which means basically he reciprocates with his devotees. So with Prahlad, who's in a very he's in a very fearful situation. He's not afraid as such, but he's in a very fearful situation. The situation itself is very fearful. Then Lord Narasimhadev comes in a very ferocious form to show that no one can be as ferocious as me, right? No one can be as angry and as, so he comes to protect Prahlad. So that's his most that's the feature which he is most ferocious on. He can protect the best. Or in another form, he comes, so he comes as Mohini Murti, is another form. So he comes in a form which is very enchanting, very attractive, very beautiful. Yeah. And so that's also there in Krishna. The fearful aspect is also there in Krishna. So Krishna has all of those in completeness. But if you were to take an aspect of Krishna which he wants to reveal to in a particular pastime, then you can see those different pastimes as well. So when Krishna comes, he's always complete, but he just shows a different aspect of his personality. Just like you as a person will reveal a different aspect of yourself to different persons who you relate to. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just got confused there regarding where this material world stems from. Yeah, regarding Brahma's stem or something, the stem he sits on, the lotus flower. So I guess that's what gets destroyed and comes back. Is it?
Okay.
Something like that. So thanks.
All right. So lots of discussion this evening. Hey. Anyone else? Kirti Kamataji.
Sorry, now just to clarify, probably it'll help Preeti to understand. So is Brahma material or spiritual? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I would think Brahma is material. Material? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is that okay, Mataji? Were you asking me the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then probably the materialism starts from there. And so any Vishnu forms would be spiritual.
Yeah, I was just, I got confused for a moment there. I thought that the stem that is coming from Vishnu, but I just remembered it's actually the material world's coming up from Brahma. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, should we continue on? Yeah, great. Thank you for your comments and contributions.
Continue?
Yeah, do we have another reader? I'm just thinking it's already 8:30 now, so maybe we can have the second reader. Denisha?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One should not uselessly labor in mental speculation to estimate the Lord's qualities. There is no need of adopting the speculative method or exercising the body to attain mystic yoga. Happiness of this body are predestined, and there is no need to try to avoid the distress of this bodily existence or to attempt to achieve happiness by different types of exercises. The best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead with body, mind, and words, and always be engaged in his service. This transcendental labor is fruitful, but other attempts to understand the absolute truth are never successful. Therefore, an intelligent man does not try to understand the absolute truth by speculative or mystic power. Rather, he engages in devotional service and depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows that whatever may happen to the body is due to his past fruitive activities. If one lives a simple life in devotional service, then automatically he inherits the transcendental abode of the Lord. Actually, every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and a son of the Godhead. Each has the natural right to inherit and share the transcendental pleasure of the Lord, but due to the contact of matter, conditioned living entities have been practically disinherited. If one adopts this simple method of engaging himself in devotional service, automatically he becomes eligible to be freed from material contamination and elevated to the transcendental position of associating with the Supreme Lord.
So I thought of it, one way I could think of simplifying this in a sentence would be just to put this whole paragraph into one sentence, or as a meditation for this evening, is work like everything depends on you. Pray like everything depends on Krishna. Yeah. So work like, this is really kind of the theme of this section of prayers, you know. We should work like everything depends on us. Just work and work, like, because if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done. Right? So work hard, pray hard. Pray hard. Pray like everything depends on Krishna. Because sometimes no matter how much you do, it's just fruitless, isn't it? Sometimes you just work really, really hard and things just never work out, right? Have you ever had that experience? I'm sure I don't need to ask that question. We've all had that experience, isn't it? Right? So don't just work hard and then just hope it all falls together. Don't just sit there and pray and then, you know, just don't do anything about it, because it's not going to happen. Right? So both has to be there. So work like everything depends on you. Pray like everything depends on Krishna. So this is like the formula for success, which is coming up in this section. So Prabhupada says all of the happiness and distress in our life is predestined. So actually when we're born, for those coming from like a Hindu background, you can get what's called like it's like a birth, you can get a birth chart, you know. You can get a birth chart, and on there will tell you like, here's all the things that will make you happy in life, here's all the distresses you'll have in life, basically. So everything is already predestined. Karma, you can't change it. There's certain karmas, there's different types of karma, and it's a big topic, so I hope we don't go into that in too much detail. But there's what's called prarabdha karma. There's karma that you're born with. So there's already going to be certain distresses you'll have in life and certain happiness you'll have in life. But we don't know when those are going to come to us as such. So we have to work hard. And at the same time, even when happiness comes, we want to remember Krishna. Even when distress comes, we will certainly want to remember Krishna. And so therefore, in everything we do, we want to remember Krishna. We want to pray. Pray like everything depends on Krishna. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have a doubt in the sentence you said, work like everything depends on you. If we work like that, won't it lead to material attachment?
So it has to be both. It cannot be one or the other. We cannot only work like everything depends on us. We cannot only pray like everything depends on Krishna, but both has to be there. That we should work like everything depends on us in the perspective that, you know, if I don't get out of my bed at this time of day and, you know, brush my teeth and have my shower and so on, and then, you know, make my breakfast, it's not actually going to happen, isn't it? It won't happen just by staying in the bed and praying. Like, Krishna, please feed me and clothe me. Right?
Yes, Prabhu.
So I'm just using a very simple example, right?
Yes,
so work has to be there. To the best of our ability, we have to work, basically, not over endeavoring, not extraneously, but to the best of our ability, work as if it depends on us. You know, if I can do something, I do it. If I can't do something, I can't do it. And the same way we pray to Krishna, that Krishna, I've done what I can, now it's up to you. This is an offering for you. If it's a good result, it's for you. If it's a bad result, whatever the result, it's for you.
Thank you.
Everything depends on Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sorry. I know what you've just said is very true, that karma is a very vast topic. You can have a discussion and some, you know, a big class on it. So maybe one day you might want to have a have a one out, you know, a slot out from the, like you did the other time when you were giving a class. Just a suggestion.
Sure.
I would be very interested.
Maybe I can refer you to the Bhagavad Gita lectures we covered over the spring, early summer, because in that I discussed karma in quite a lot of detail. So
okay, I'll have a look
yeah.
at that. I think you did give me the
especially chapters 3, 4, 5 of Bhagavad Gita.
okay.
Those are the karma yoga chapters. So we covered a lot in that. And then if you have any further questions, so those were like, I think they were like 2-hour classes each, but there's quite a lot of information in there. If you still have questions, then happy to discuss further.
Thank you.
Is that
Thank
right?
you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And Priti has a hand raised as well.
Yeah, I just had a comment to make, because I was trying to think like, well, what if you work hard but don't pray, and then things don't work out, or you work hard and you pray and things don't work out? You would still think, okay, it's Krishna's plan, it's destiny. And I think the second one, where you pray, like you depend everything on Krishna, that is probably like the best way to be detached from what you do, detached from results, and that kind of like keeps a lot of peace and steadiness. So yeah, I was just trying to, that was the comment, like it just at the end of the day would help someone be detached from what they do.
Yeah, really nice reflection. Thank you. Yeah. So this is how we remain detached. Yeah. So this is actually samadhi, actually, you know, that we carry on working very hard, and we pray very hard, and we know, and Krishna will give us the internal, he'll give us the internal realization, he'll give us the internal peace internally, that, you know, he's taking care of us no matter what happens. And Madhavi Mataji spoke about this as well, actually, just earlier. She said, you know, just do whatever you can, and just know that Krishna is the center of your life. So externally, we could be doing so many different things, but internally, there's that, you know, there's that very steady, there's a very steady sense of, you know, groundedness or shelter within, and that's Krishna. And we take this approach. So this is actually a very, very significant paragraph. Prabhupada in some places has said this should be our daily prayer. Particularly where this paragraph says, each has the natural right to inherit and share the transcendental pleasures of the Lord. Okay. So if you want to take this as a prayer, then you can refer to it in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where this Krishna book comes from. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, in the 14th chapter, text number 8, that's where this paragraph is actually coming from. It's a very, very famous prayer. I'll try and recite in Sanskrit, although I'm not very good at it. As it goes, Tatenu kampam susumikshmano pujana evatma kritam vipakam ridvag vapubi vidadam namaste jiveta yo muktipada sadaya bhak. So this is a really very famous prayer. Prabhupada says that we should, this should be like our daily prayer. And this is what this paragraph is talking about. In the English translation is as follows. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances within his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Okay, so the purport, I won't go into this in too much detail, but you can read that in your own time. The purport, that text is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, text number 8. So basically what Prabhupada is saying in the purport there, or rather the way that the purport is described, is that it's like a son who inherits the kingdom of his father. Yeah, so we simply have to acknowledge that everything comes from Krishna, and just by sticking to it, just by sticking to this practice of devotional service, come what may, ups and downs, we will inherit Krishna at the end of life. Or in a simple way, Prabhupada says, just as a son, all he has to do to inherit his father's kingdom is stay alive, isn't it? So if we have some inheritance coming to us in life, how do we gain that inheritance? We just have to stay alive, and we'll inherit our father's property. Of course, in the modern day, there's so many legalities and all of this involved, right? But simply, if we stay alive, we'll inherit. So it's the same in spiritual life. If we simply stick to it, if we simply chant our japa, if we simply stick to the devotional service, come what may, thick or thin, we will inherit the kingdom of God. We will attain Goloka Vrindavan. Hari Bol. This is the essence of the prayer. It's very nice, isn't it? So Prabhupada recommends that this should be like our daily meditation. So just stick it out for one life, and we'll attain Krishna Loka. So shall we continue from here?
Okay, Prabhu. Lord Brahma presented himself to Lord Krishna as the most presumptuous living creature because he wanted to examine the wonder of his personal power. He stole the boys and calves of the Lord in order to see how the Lord would recover them. Now Lord Brahma admitted that his attempt was most presumptuous, for he was attempting to test his energy before the person of original energy. Coming to his senses, Lord Brahma saw that although he was a very powerful living creature in the estimation of all other living creatures within this material world, his power was nothing in comparison with the power and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The scientists of the material world have invented wonders such as atomic weapons, and when tested in a city or some insignificant place on this planet, such wonderful weapons create so-called havoc. But if the atomic weapons are tested on the sun, what is their significance? They are insignificant there. Similarly, Brahma's stealing of the calves and boys from Sri Krishna may be a wonderful display of mystic power, but when Sri Krishna exhibited his expansive power in so many calves and boys and maintained them without effort, Brahma could understand that his own power was insignificant.
Okay, so what did you will learn from this paragraph here? Did anyone share?
Hello.
Yes, Vimo. Hi, Bob.
Haribo. So I was thinking that often I have a lot of resistance to change, especially trying to follow the four requisite principles of chant any amount of rounds. You know, I always think I know better, but looking at this, I can see even Brahma was like, he knows when he's been, when he's, and when you're playing cards, in poker they call this thing called bluff. So he was like, he can't be beat. He realized he can't win with his hand, and he realized someone else, in this case Krishna, has got way a better hand than him. So that's a rubbish explanation I've just given. I just realized, but I guess what I'm saying is that whenever I come up with a situation and I try to figure out from my mental speculation, I kind of have to remind myself, which I do, that I don't know best actually, even though I think I do, but I don't really know. That's just my mind playing tricks on me. So I just accept it. And I try to accept more, because every time I don't try to accept more, I get myself in trouble, whether it's at work or in a relationship. or whatever it is. It's better for me to admit I don't know best. That's what I got from this.
Thank you for your honesty and depth there. Appreciate that very much. Yeah. Actually, you made me think of something to share as well, and in reflection to what you're saying. So quite some years ago, I heard a lecture which was quite an interesting look at the 4 regulative principles. So for those who are not familiar, for the initiated devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, we take vows to follow 4 principles. So those are no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex life. And so this devotee had given an interesting reflection on this. He was saying that if you are to gamble, then gamble on Krishna, you know, take a chance on Krishna. If you're interested in gambling, then weigh up the odds. Material life, spiritual life, gamble it on Krishna. Put all your bets on Krishna. If you want to take up intoxication, then weigh up your odds, you know. You can go for material intoxication, which has a beginning and an end. Or you can become intoxicated in the holy name, which has no end, and it's always increasing in taste. So if it's intoxication is your thing, then take that route. He says, if you know, what else is there? If meat eating is your thing, then he said that because of violence, you should either you can try this kind of violence and see what kind of violence comes back to you, reactions you get, or you can take up Krishna consciousness, you know, and actually fight against Maya, you know, see how happy you'll be fighting the good fight against Maya, you know, being in Prabhupada's army and spreading Krishna consciousness. Take up that fight. If you have to be aggressive, then go out there and preach to people, because that's also called jiva himsa. If you have knowledge and you don't share, that's called jiva himsa, that you don't share that knowledge. That's committing violence in some ways. So because then you're seeing people who are going to suffer, and you think, I don't really want to tell them, they're not going to understand Krishna. So that's actually considered a form. It's a very subtle form of violence. So then give that person Krishna, you know. So you're saying like that. So whether it's gambling or intoxication or meat eating or violence, let's say, or illicit sex, then was the 4th one. So he was saying, instead of trying and failing in so many relationships in this world, just take up this one relationship with Krishna, because he's unlimited. He will give you unlimited rasa. Krishna is known as Rasa Raj. He's the king of all rasas. You'll find all tastes, all types of mellows in relationship with him. So another way of looking at the regulative principles. So basically, don't become addicted to these mundane irregulative principles. Become addicted to the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Does anyone else like to share from this paragraph? Okay, we can continue to the next one.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a quick thing. It's like it's telling us to have a simple life, as Prabhupada said. It's called simple living and high thinking. It does help a lot. Like, I'll give you just a quick example that we had in our Menchi group, we had a couple of them, they had problem with them and they were going through the divorce, and then again, they came to the stage to give a second chance, but case had gone so far that the final date of divorce had come, and then they came to us and they said, this is, but we are thinking we should try again for the sake of children. So we said, okay, what is it then? They told us, so we said, okay, we will come as a representative of temple councillors and all that, and represent ourselves and see what happens. We tried to have them. So we went to the court for them. There's a police case and everything. So we had the hearing, but the police lady didn't turn up to give her. So the judge said, as the police lady hasn't come, we can't do the hearing today. We have to give another date. So we had to go out. And then we saw a solicitor, and we said, Prabhu said to him, look, this is okay, it's not good. And me and Prabhu said, same thing. I told Prabhu, I think it's good she's not there. This is some chance of turning the case upside down with our spiritual realization. So he said, okay. So we told her, look, we have come from far, from south to north for this case. We are retired, we're doing a service, voluntary service. That doesn't mean our time is not valuable. So can we still go on and do hearing without policewomen? See how? And we said we can present ourselves. And so a solicitor went to the secretary, and they spoke to the judge, and judge and said, okay, if she hasn't come, then doesn't matter, let's go, if that's the case. So we went, and then the both solicitors spoke and all that, and then we were called that, okay, one of you can come in the box and represent. So Prabhu went in, and then we said, yeah, they are our counselor. So they got the question, how can they have been given a court, they can't go anywhere together, can't see each other. How are they coming to your meetings and attending? I said, no, she's mine. Prabhu said, she's my wife's counselor, and he's mine. But we're doing together and in a group with others. So according to us and our principles, they can come because they're not talking to each other. I said, okay, fine, that's so. Second thing said, how do you help? And how do you think that? So he said, it's called International Society of Krishna Consciousness, where we work, we help. And the principle is simple living, high thinking. So judge said, can you say again? You said simple living, high thinking. And then he described what we meant. And then they said, okay, I don't want to hear anymore. And he said, then he called us back and said, okay, they can live together. I understood what you mean. So that's here he's saying as well, a simple living. Yeah, one sentence saying. So depending on Krishna and doing activity around Krishna, and we have got no choice. Actually, I see myself in my situation. I've got no choice except depending on Krishna. I sleep with saying, thank you, Krishna, for getting this day over. In the morning, I get up and I say prayer, and then I say, Krishna, can you give me my plan, what I have to do? Like we go to work and we said, yeah, what's my job today? Which section I am, where I'm sitting. So, and I say, it's in your hand to get me through this day. Yeah.
It's beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yeah, so very, very, you see the harsh realities of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so Prabhupada gives us principles the scriptures, they give us these different principles, right? So simple living, high thinking, regulative principles, you know. So there's so many different principles which are given in the scripture. You know, that we should be enthusiastic, we should be tolerant, we should be respectful. So there's so many principles. But then there's also details, right? And details means, how do I apply all these things in my life, yeah, to my specific situation? On one hand, someone is saying, be enthusiastic, be enthusiastic. Another hand, another book you pick up, you read another page, be tolerant, be patient. Huh? So all the principles are there, isn't it? But then the details, how do we know, okay, what am I supposed to do? That comes from good guidance. So we, like I've said time and again, you know, like here we have Madhavi Mataji and Satyanarayana Prabhu who are with us. So we need that kind of guidance. We need these type of good examples, these mentors, those who really understood what is the principles of spiritual life and how do I apply them in these particular situations. So just reading the principles on our own, we won't know how to apply them in the details. How do the details fit into our detailed and complicated life? So we can be simple if we can get guidance, because life is otherwise complicated. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Did I explain that correctly? We can maybe read one more paragraph.
Brahma addressed Lord Krishna as Achyuta because the Lord is never forgetful of a little service rendered by his devotee. He is so kind and affectionate towards his devotees that a little service by them is accepted by him as a great deal. Brahma has certainly rendered much service to the Lord. As the Supreme Personality in charge of this particular universe, he is, without a doubt, a faithful servant of Krishna. Therefore, he could appease Krishna. He asked that the Lord understand him as a subordinate servant whose little mistake and impudence might be excused. He admitted that he was puffed up by his powerful position as Lord Brahma, because he is the qualitative incarnation of the mode of passion within this material world. This was natural for him, and therefore he committed the mistake. But Lord Brahma hoped that since he was, after all, Lord Krishna's subordinate, the Lord would kindly take compassion upon him and excuse him for his gross mistake.
So really wonderful prayers, huh? What do you think? Anything to pick up from here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So the one thing that I picked up from here is the sentence where it says, he's so kind and affectionate towards his devotees and he would never forget. So it's like you take one step and he takes 10 towards you.
Yeah.
That's what stands out for me in this bit.
Yeah, I really like that sentence too, Mataji. Thank you. Yeah, so the second sentence, isn't it?
Yeah.
So kind and affectionate towards devotees. Krishna never forgets anything we do for him. Huh? Krishna's name is Achyuta, but Prabhupada gives an interesting translation here. Sometimes Achyuta means infallible, one who never becomes contaminated, or one who never falls down. That's the meaning, literal meaning for Achyuta. So it's a very popular song, isn't it? Achyutam Keshavam. I don't know very well, but it's quite a popular song, isn't it? That people devotee or people like to sing in general.
Yeah.
But Prabhupada translates that word here as Krishna is never forgetful. He never forgets, even if we've done a little bit of good for him. Srila Prabhupada gave this example once that even if you employ someone to come into the temple, a carpenter, and he has to fix a board on the wall or something like that, and he has to nail it in the wall. So because he's come into Krishna's temple and he's done that work, he's come to Krishna's home and he's offered his service, though he may be paid for it as a carpenter, that is unforgotten by Krishna. Krishna will never forget that man came in and he helped to do something in my house, in my home. So that was the beginning of his devotional service. So that's called Agyata Sukriti. That means even if you do something unknowingly for Krishna, like you employ someone just to come in to temple and do work, he's just doing his regular job, But Krishna will never forget that he did a little bit of work for him. So that even that person, for that type of person, his karma is completely changed, different. Krishna will eternally remember that person. He put a nail in the wall for me. So kind is Krishna, we cannot understand. What to speak of someone who day in, day out is trying, and even failing may be the case, but trying to do something for Krishna, how much Krishna will be appreciative, how close Krishna will bring us to him when the time is right. So this is Krishna's kindness. We should also not forget that Krishna is so extremely kind. So maybe this is a good point to end. Does anyone else want to raise anything from this paragraph?
I think this paragraph shows us the position of Lord Brahma, which we were discussing earlier, that he is a part of the mode of passion within this material world. So that is something we should be aware of.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you.
Just quickly wanted to say that I like that Krishna is like, he even sees this mistake, but then he's compassionate and he excuses him, and it kind of reminds me of, I have to remind myself to be kind to myself. Otherwise, if I be really guilty for doing even the littlest thing wrong, that doesn't help at all. That actually spirals me out of control, and then I go to unhealthy coping mechanisms to feel good and to get validation. So I'm always careful now to make sure I don't make myself so wrong for doing something. I just pick myself up and just keep moving on.
That's it, yeah. And so this is exactly what Lord Brahma is exemplifying, isn't it? So this is the actual mode of passion, that we do something a little bit inconsiderately, without considering the consequences. Yeah. So we see the immediate benefit, and then we don't know the longer term impact. This is a mode of passion. But we don't have to kick ourselves for that. Material nature is giving us enough kicks as it is. Right? So we just pick up and carry on. That's all. So this prayer which I read from 10th canto, 14th chapter, text 8, is very powerful, and it just helps us to let's say, like, draw our reins, pull back. It's a prayer for forgiveness. Yeah. Okay, one more comment from Preeti as well.
Yeah, this is something I had from Vaisakhi Prabhu, and he goes like, if we give everything we can with our two hands to Krishna, and we're limited, but then Krishna will reciprocate, and he could give with his two hands, but that's what he is unlimited. So adding on to that, if we take one step towards Krishna, he takes 10. Even if we take one step, it's still very tiny, whereas his step is unlimited. So the reciprocation is not just tenfold, it's unlimited. I guess it's that whole stuff about spiritual credits, which I guess anything spiritual is eternal. So you're getting something eternal.
Yeah. These 2 points actually remind me of the pastime of Bali Maharaj. I don't want to spiral into a whole new conversation here. So I'll try and keep it short. But Krishna doesn't always reciprocate with us in the way that we want him to. He always reciprocates in the way with us which is best for us. So we always have to be open that Krishna, no matter how you give yourself to me, that's always going to be the best. Whatever you do with me, that's always going to be the best. And this is the most difficult aspect of surrender, because surrender means not just I love you and I love you and I'll do everything for you, but it also means I love you and I trust you. See, like in the pastime of Bali Maharaj, right? Bali was expecting Krishna, Vamandev even, just to take 3 little steps, and bas, my charity is done. But Krishna took the whole universe. Then he arrested Bali Maharaj, and then he gave everything back to him in a transcendental way. He made him his servant, but not in an ordinary way. He made him his servant in that he actually became the servant of Bali. He became the gatekeeper of his kingdom. So you see, Krishna does things in ways which we don't expect. So don't only love Krishna, but also trust him that he's going to do things. He will give us everything, but not in the way that we expect. And he'll give it to us if we don't take it with his 2 hands, he'll give it to us with his 10 hands. Or his 10,000 hands. But definitely Krishna will give it in the way that he wants to give it. And that's what's best for us. Yeah, so thank you for adding that, Preeti.
Hare Krishna Babu, I'll share something with you. The same thing you said, that Krishna takes with 2 hands and gives with 10 hands. That's what Prabhupada said as well. That Krishna took everything away from me with 2 hands, but now he's given me with 10 hands, and I need devotees' help to have it. I can't take it with 2 hands, or he's given me with 10 hands. So I need all of your help. So yeah, that shows as well how much Krishna does for his devotee.
Yeah, wow, that's a really amazing point, Mataji. Yeah, imagine just by Srila Prabhupada's endeavor alone, there were 108 temples opened. Prabhupada started a whole worldwide movement, and he's given us all, service for a whole lifetime. That was Prabhupada's own doing, That was Prabhupada giving Krishna with his 2 hands, and Krishna giving back Prabhupada more than he could handle, more than even all of us can handle in ISKCON. So there's so much service to be done, isn't it? Yeah. So this is when Krishna really gives his pure devotees with all his hands. Then Prabhupada could engage so many people in the service of Krishna. Yeah. Thanks for adding that, Madhvi Mataji. So I'm quite aware we're really over time. I'm sorry for that. It's me, I think, who's just kind of spurring on more and more conversations. Does anyone have any burning last final points which we need to address before we close? No? Especially Mataji, please say something because we haven't heard from you this evening.
Very well. I just wanted to add that I've been doing some Vedanta classes, and we have someone that's in that class that's starting a Bhagavad Gita class tomorrow morning. So if anyone's interested, because Smita Mataji was saying about, earlier on in the class we were referencing about the Karma Yoga. So I think at the moment, from what I can see of what's been sent to me, I think they're going to complete the first 3 chapters. So the class at the moment is starting tomorrow, Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock. If anybody's interested, then I can post it in the group, because you have to do a little registration online, which only takes a couple of minutes, and it's completely free. So I just thought if anybody could benefit from that or would like to do that.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for putting that out. Okay, if you could send it to me, and then I'll forward it on to the group.
Okay.
That'd be really helpful.
Okay.
Great. Another bit of admin, just to finish. Sorry, we keep adding on this, but I don't know if anyone has seen that in our WhatsApp group, Jigna sent a survey, and this is really for me to kind of reflect on how I'm best trying to serve you. So we've had a few responses so far, but I don't think we've had enough yet. So if you haven't, then please take a look at this survey. It takes not more than a few minutes to fill in, 5 minutes perhaps, just to fill in so we can get your feedback on how you think this Sangha is going, and how you think we can improve it or change it or keep it the same even. Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear them. We don't get enough time, of course, to chat at the beginning and the end of the meetings. They generally get stuck in straight away and close straight away. So for me, this is a really great way to hear from you what your honest thoughts are. Please take some time out to fill that in. Much appreciated. I hope to serve you better as the weeks go on. Okay. Okay, so wishing everyone all the best. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.